talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions in between, breaking down all the numbers as well. In your favorite sketches with special guests, it's on the Saturday Night Network.
Oh yeah, I miss that theme song. It's been a while, but glad to be back here talking about some modern SNL news. It is a crazy day in the SNL universe, so we felt compelled to go live. So hope everybody's doing great. My name is John Schneider from the Saturday Night Network, and happy to be back with you as we are preparing for season 51 of Saturday Night Live, which is starting to feel a lot like the
Hunger Games!
Yeah, it's the Hunger Games. Just people are dropping like flies. So we're going to be talking about all that, everything that we know here over at the SNN. We got a couple of great correspondents with us here, and hopefully some other people will join throughout the show. We want to take your questions because, of course, I know that everyone is wondering what the heck is going on over at SNL. So first up, let's bring in Amanda Barkin. Amanda, how are you?
I am great. This is my first breaking news segment on this podcast, so I'm so excited to be here to talk with you guys, and I'm so excited to be back. I haven't been on all summer. I'm just really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I mean, obviously bittersweet with a lot of news that we're talking about in just a moment, but also got to bring in my man Bill Kenny's here. Bill, how are you?
Good, John. We had a feeling this was all coming when we read those articles last week, and it's been parsed out every day. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. So here we are talking about it again.
Yeah, so it's so different every single season with the way that these things get announced. Sometimes they leak all at once. Sometimes it happens day by day. We get some more news, and that seems to be what is happening this season, where we were talking on Monday night when we went live for our countdown show about the departure of Devin Walker, the first official cast member to leave prior to the start of season 51. We also spoke about writers Celeste Yim and Rosebud Baker leaving the show. But since then, we have some new news to announce, and I know not everyone is on social media. So let's start with what we have over here, which is that Emil Wakim will be leaving Saturday Night Live after one season on the show. He's the latest rookie to only be one and done at the show. He posted yesterday that I won't be returning to SNL next year. It was a gut punch of a call to get, but I'm so grateful for my time there. I was at Six Flags celebrating my friend's 36th birthday. I went on a really emotional walk through Bugs Bunny Park and stared across Daffy Duck Lake, thinking about life every time I scanned into the building. I would think how insane it is to get to work there. It was the most terrifying, thrilling, and rewarding experience of my life, and I will miss it dearly, and all the brilliant people that worked there that made it feel like home. Thank you to Lauren for taking a chance on me and changing my life. I was so lucky to bring some of myself in there and say things I believed in, and I'm excited for whatever chapter comes next. Here's to making more art without compromise, onwards and upwards. Love you, Emil. So first news we're going to be talking about here today is the departure of Emil Wakim. Amanda, surprised? How are you feeling?
I'm so shocked. I hope that my memory is correct, but I feel like when we were closing out season 50, we were like, Emil had a banger of a year in a really crowded field. Season 50, obviously incredibly difficult to be a first-year cast member, finding your spot when there's just cameos after cameos, a huge cast, the whole shebang. And I feel like Emil really found his pockets. He obviously is a stand-up. He's not a sketch comedian, although pretty common in recent years, but it comes with its own unique challenges. We all know that. But I really felt like Emil did a great job in all the sketch work that he did, but also found real pockets where his stand-up could be what I think brought in a way that works for SNL. Like, I don't ever think that I think he really integrated his work. And I don't know if I'm just if my memory is just wrong or if I'm just misremembering, because I really like him as a stand-up and a performer, but I'm really shocked. I thought that he had a killer year and ended on such a high note, and I'm pretty devastated to see this.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I do think that, when you go through an SNL season, it's so intense, especially in the fall where all of these things are clumped together. And then we had SNL 50. So some of the storylines I think are hard to parse through. But the truth is that Emil had a really great fall of 2024. And I think everyone felt really good about him. Just talking about what we saw on screen, it definitely dipped after the new year. And I think that we saw a lot less of him. So clearly there was something going on. I had attributed it to being a little bit of a rookie wall where sometimes people just, they want to get you in right away and see what you can do. And then they, want to focus on the veterans. So it took a while. He did pop in places throughout the spring, but certainly I felt like I saw enough to want him to be there for another season. But I don't know that I was fully confident that he was absolutely going to get one. So, Bill, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, perfectly said. I mean, this is to equate it to sports as we often do, John. It's the dog days of summer, except it's the dog days of winter on SNL because we've seen this so many times. With Aristotle, same kind of deal. Chloe Trost to a certain extent, where after they come back from holiday break, we don't see them as much. And this one is really odd to me because not only was he doing these great update pieces, which I got to see personally live at the Keaton episode and saw him go up the elevator. So it was really amazing to see his first breakthrough moment in person. But then he was also doing the father and the boyfriend roles, which would normally go to somebody like Mikey or something like that. The earring one sticks out. I'm sure we'll talk about some of the sketches, but he held his own with Heidi, and it was only about his 7th or 8th episode. And it's really sad to see what happened when they came back from winter break, and we didn't really see him that much. He got, I think, one more update piece on that was really funny, and then that was pretty much it. So yeah, it's not shocking. We talked about this on the By the Numbers finale. We talked about Devin on Monday being at the bottom, and Emil was very close to the bottom as well as far as power rankings go. So not a huge shock, but very sad.
Yeah, and I just will put it all out there. I mean, obviously, Mike and I joke about how the power rankings are, very foretelling of what's going to come, and it is like a hard stat. I mean, not everyone is a numbers person when it comes to SNL, but numbers are just records of events. So all we are just putting down on paper is what we get to see.
That was beautiful.
You're welcome. But I really, I will also say, like, a lot of times when these things do happen, there are other circumstances, other reasons why somebody is not brought back. In this case, I really was hoping for Emil to return naturally. I got to meet him. I got to meet him at the show at the 50th, but I also got to speak to him a couple weeks ago when he was performing it Just for Laughs, and we got to hang out a little bit there. And he seemed pretty excited for a second season, so I knew that things were up in the air, but unfortunately, the decision hadn't been made at that point. So very unfortunate for Emil. But when I found this out, I really felt that the standard for departures had to have been raised if we're going to do this, if we're going to get rid of Emil. And with that comes the news that we found out today, which is that Michael Longfellow, who has been at the show for 3 seasons, was reported earlier today, is also going to be leaving the show. He has not come out and spoken about the news himself. What I have heard is that this departure happened at the same time as the Emil and Devin one. So it's just the way this always works is that Saturday Night Live has the official stance that they don't announce departures. It's just not what they do. Those either get reported by people who are close to the show or by news publications. So the news did come out today that Longfellow is leaving, and hopefully he'll get a chance to tell his story and comment on that in his own time. But 3 seasons for Michael Longfellow. We've spoken about him for years, about the potential of this guy who comes in with a little bit of danger. We felt like there was something, very exciting and different about him. Obviously a stand-up among the other stand-ups that were hired in season 48. And now only 3 seasons later, his time at SNL is over. One that had a lot of potential, including the idea that maybe one day he would take over as a Weekend Update anchor, but that is not going to happen now, Bill Kenny. So let me get your thoughts on Longfellow leaving the show.
Probably the best potential we've seen that hasn't really been met in the last few years. This is guy, I as I've said before, I love stand-up. I knew of him coming into the show, and he's kind of a mix between like a Stephen Wright and a Christopher Walken and a Norm Macdonald, which is high praise. And he would do these great Weekend Update pieces, whether he was playing himself or playing a character. But yeah, he never really had this breakup. He didn't really have characters in sketches. He had the water slide sketch last fall with Bergazzi that he was trying to get on for a long time. But yeah, something's going on with the stand-ups on SNL the last few years. I think by my count, this is 6 the last 2 years that we've lost. And, John, you've said it before, as far as, during COVID, this was kind of the way to go, as opposed to going to auditions at Second City and UCB. So they brought in more than they normally would. But yeah, stand-ups just, they haven't broken through that wall. I mean, Marcelo is one, Dismukes, but they took time to get going too. So I don't know if it's just a matter of kind of paring down the cast a little bit. But yeah, if he wasn't getting an update, I didn't think he was coming back. I think I said that by the numbers as well.
Yeah, I cannot emphasize enough how much of a different timeline SNL would look if we didn't have COVID in 2020. A lot of the cast members that left at the end of 47 were planning on leaving at the end of 45. Those cast members would have been naturally replaced with people from different from different sketch troupes around North America. That didn't end up happening. We go into those at-home shows and into COVID and season 46. Those hires are, within staff or stand-ups or something more, easily accessible in that way. Same thing for 47, 48. Between 48 and 49, you would have expected some more sketch hires. We end up only getting Chloe Trost, who was pretty close to PDD, and there was an actor strike, so they couldn't actually go and audition people properly. So there have been many auditions over the last few years, but it just hasn't happened in the natural way that we were used to for 45 years or whatever it was. And now last year with Ashley, that was sort of the first one that felt more what they were used to. And I think we're seeing the results of the consequences, rather, of the decisions over the last few years, which is leaning heavy on stand-ups. And the truth is, as talented and as amazing as Michael Longfellow is, it is so much harder for a stand-up to transition over to Saturday Night Live. Amanda, your thoughts on Michael Longfellow leaving the show?
I'm very sad. I had basically slotted him as an update anchor in my mind already, and made that reality. I know the numbers speak for themselves, as they are. What did you say? They're just something of events.
Records of events.
They're just records of events. I know that they speak for themselves. That said, I think that any time Longfellow was on screen, it was incredibly memorable to me personally. I think he has that kind of edge that we don't have with really any other cast member. And that's my brand of humor. Maybe I'm just like a New York asshole, so maybe that's what I look for and what resonates with me. But I think that Longfellow has, I'm not going to speak of him as if he's dead, but has such a unique quality and kind of texture to him that he commands. I mean, even in an awkward way. I mean, I love the creepy Longfellow, that ego line from Bowen's Straight 2. I mean, it's true, but it was like, he also has, I'm not going to like thirst over him, but I feel like he has that quality, like people like him in this, but he's also got the edge and the creepiness. I don't know. It's a whole combination. He's got a really unique vibe, and I think it's really, interesting. And I really liked the way it played on screen, Saturday Night Live or not. I mean, it's just frustrating. They hired these people. They were serving purposes, at least for me, in the way that I consumed the show. And to see him cut loose is really sad. The stand-up is really fascinating. I also wonder if when Pete Davidson left, they were kind of looking for the same magic. Like, Pete obviously did not really integrate into the sketch component of the show, and yet he somehow brought SNL into the cultural zeitgeist in a way that it wasn't without him. I know that's going to be a controversial thing to say, but people were talking about SNL that wouldn't otherwise have been talking about it. And I'm far from a purist. Say what you want. It is a business. Like, that is, right. Lorne Michaels is nothing if not a capitalist. We know that. So I don't know if he was trying to recreate that magic and throw in some stand-ups. I feel like we certainly thought about that when Longfellow first went on Update, when his rookie year, we drew parallels to Pete, which was, for better or for worse. I don't really know. I'm really fascinated to see that if they're saying it's a shakeup, give us a shakeup. We'll cover it, and it's going to be fascinating for us. But this feels sad to me. The three of them, I'm a Union Hall girl. They all perform at this comedy. I mean, it's a bocce bar with a basement that I live near and that I go to all the time. And Dismukes does. It just feels like that culture is a piece of it, and I feel like it was cut loose. So
Yeah, that's for sure. Look, to answer your question about Pete, I think that they found some of the qualities they were looking for that Pete brought to the show in Marcelo, ultimately, who is the winner of the competition between the four new hires in season 48. Expected to remain at the show at least for now. So I mean, that's where they got that. I mean, clearly Michael Longfellow has star qualities to him that I think were great. I think that the part of it was tough because in the beginning of season 48, when they brought on Marcelo, Longfellow, and Devin, they essentially had them almost audition on screen episode to episode, where the first, I believe, 3 episodes of season 48 had each of them having an update piece at the desk doing some of their stand up. And, I know we tend to like make a competition out of it sometimes in terms of our coverage, but it really felt evident with those, 48 hires that, one was going to rise to the top, and who would that be? And I think with the success of Marcelo, ultimately Devin and Longfellow kind of get left in the dust in a way, where they were just trying to find their place. And I will say, for what it's worth, I think Michael Longfellow had a really good back half of season 50. I think it was maybe his best half a season at the show, where he was in that Goth Kid on Vacation. He was in the Oedipus complex thing that was there as well. It was really good pre-tapes that he both did. And he was like, okay, well, here's something a little bit different that's not just trying to fit him into like a Bill Hadery or Norm Macdonald type of role. And then we get him at the update desk towards the end of the season. And again, we don't have all the answers of what's going to happen with Weekend Update this second. I will tell you that it was reported on Late Nighter last week that there was a screen test that was done with Michael Longfellow and Casey Shornema. I have also heard that exact information. So I know that he did at least, or his name was in the mix for Update. So if Jost and Che are staying and Michael Longfellow is leaving, I think it's totally fair to say that they blocked a spot for a guy who could have ended up in an alternate timeline having a great career at the update desk. Bill, let's get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's if you remember from back in season 2019 when they replaced Kevin Nealon, and famously Al Franken wanted it after having been on the show, written on the show for 2 decades, and they gave it to Norm, and Franken left the show, and that was basically the last we saw of Franken. This is different because this could have been, a youthful presence at the desk. Amanda kind of references it. This was somebody who came out. If you're trying to get younger viewers, which obviously they are, with the way they put the clips on YouTube and things like that. This was somebody who got the Woo Girls going more than anybody probably since Fallon, right? Like, he was a good-looking guy, came out, he did his thing. You heard that audience just explode every time he appeared on screen, more than anybody else that was on the show the last few years. I think that was probably maybe Che and Jost kind of were on the fence. Obviously, ScarJo coming in for the finale, we're all thinking this is it. And they have a change of heart, or one of them decides, like, if you stay, I'll stay. And then, here we are. And Longfellow's like, well, that was my path to getting on the show more. So, maybe I'm out. I mean, we're obviously just speculating, but that feels like what it is here.
Yeah. The thing about how season 50 ended is that it's not written yet. Like, we don't really know how to look back at it because it was so recent, and that there's just so much to be decided among the people that were still there. So I think if ultimately Jost and Che do leave and they go in a different direction with updates, then we can come to a different conclusion about Longfellow, which is just that they were never even considering him in the first place and that they didn't block that spot. So there's certainly things that I think need to be decided. I want to grab some more panelists here to talk about what's been going on in the last couple days. So I'm going to bring in someone with a pretty big voice in the SNL community who I know has a lot to say about this. Andrew Dick is here. Andrew, how are you?
John, what the fuck?
How are you?
I'm all right. Just rushed home from work and still smell like a kitchen. I'm rattled and panicked, but I'm here. My goodness. Whoa.
Okay, so I want to get your thoughts on everything. I will say that there's been another rumor that I've been hearing about with something pretty big at the show that I want to bring to you. I don't know if any of you have caught this yet, but I'm going to put it up on screen just for you guys to take a look at this. So here we go. SNL upping Please Don't Destroy member to main cast, rumor mill. This is just appearing on Late Nighter right now. The potential of a Please Don't Destroy split as well with Ben Marshall, Martin Herlihy, and John Higgins. So this has just been posted. So it'll be very interesting to see what is being put out there. I have heard that there is potential for a change there, that maybe one person in the cast or one person in the troupe might be joining the cast at some point. So I'll do some quick reaction on that while that's out, and then we'll go to you, Andrew, for the news on the departures. Amanda, anything you would like to say about PDD potentially having some changes at the show?
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with PDD breaking up as in the form that they were in before. I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the stuff that they put out last year. I think it was kind of like lightning in a bottle when they started, and I think that they kind of run their course. I really love them in The Office, but I think that we probably got a lot, as much as we squeezed a lot of the juice. I don't know if it was all of it, but I think that it was great, and I'm okay with that ending. They didn't get a ton on last year. It didn't always hit for me. I don't know that they played off of every host in the same way, so I'm okay with it. I'd be
sounding
super
the alarms
interested.
in the background.
Oh yeah, live from New York, if you will. But
Here, let me go to Bill. Let me go to Bill. Let me let the fire go down there, and we'll get.
Pass.
Yeah, I know it'll pass, but let me go to Bill just to get his perspective, and then we'll come back to you. So, Bill, again, this is the time of the year where literally anything can drop at any minute. If you go, you take a shower, bring your phone with you, because you never know what's going to happen. So more news here right now, potentially about a breakup of PDD. Not sure if this is confirmed or not, but still something that is potentially in the works here. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. I mean, we've wanted them in the cast. A lot of us have wanted them in the cast for a while. They did kind of step back from a lot of their shorts, and we're doing a lot more writing behind the scenes in the last year and a half or so. I can't imagine one of them getting it and not the other two if they're put in the cast, because this is not a Lonely Island situation where Andy's hired and then they bring in the other writers who he's been writing with, Akiva and Yorma, for many years. I mean, they feel like a package deal. So that would be shocking. That part would be shocking to me. If they actually get in the cast, that wouldn't be, because I feel like it's overdue. We haven't seen a lot of them in regular sketches. A couple of instances. I think John was in one of the Republican debates, right? But yeah, we haven't seen a lot on screen as far as that goes, but I think they could potentially be very good in sketches.
Yeah. So Andrew, I'm throwing a lot of news at you, but as soon as I got a notification on my phone, again, I have to stay on my phone all day, but just as soon as I got this, I thought it'd be good, since we're live, to bring this up. But what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about this with PDD or some of the other news that we got?
We could just, since we're talking about this, I'll echo, I think, a lot of what Amanda said there, where it does feel like it has run the course, their specific PDD style, their pre-tapes. Last season did seem like the natural end to that. And I guess if one were to be put into the cast, I've been noticing it a lot in chat. A lot of people think that Ben would probably be the best bet. And I think that is, I would say the same would be the one I would go with. But then I still just don't know how. I mean, we saw, John maybe had one or two lines in a live sketch. Like, I just don't know how they are live, So it's an interesting thing. I mean, I think I'd already seen them already kind of splitting off and writing sketches with other people, not as the full group, I believe. So I feel like this has been kind of percolating.
You're very right, actually. If you go through some of the writing credits from last year, it's probably the year where they wrote the most separate from each other or the least together. So that is something that may have been an indication of what they were trying to do this coming year. I mean, again, it's just interesting. This is almost like Destiny's Child breaking up, right? Like, who's the Beyonce who's going to make it here? And, Ben Marshall has been the one that's been in a lot of commercials. We'd be remiss not to talk about the ties that the troupe has to the show in, John Higgins's father being one of the major producers of Saturday Night Live. So you would expect that he would stick around there. Martin Herlihy is the son of former writer and head writer, Tim Herlihy, and obviously, was part of Happy Gilmore 2 with a big summer there. So, I mean, maybe he decides to move on and write more with his dad or other things that are going on. So it'll be interesting to see what materializes there with PDD. Of course, just nothing official right now, but something to watch out for, as we are going to probably, once we get all of the remaining departure news this week, move into, after Labor Day, the hiring cycle for SNL, because the initial auditions took place exactly 2 weeks ago at the show, and then callbacks are expected to take place next week, where they will be making some final decisions about who will be joining the cast. So all of that news is to come. Andrew, let's talk about your boy, Michael Longfellow, leaving the cast. How do you feel about this?
What? I don't understand. Why? Why they do this to me? It feels. I really want to know what happened. If it was something with not giving him update and he just went, all right, I guess I'm out then, or what's happening here? It seems to be a massively unpopular decision, obviously. And I just can't fathom why or what is happening. Why are our three exits so far fairly new people that are supposed to be the foundation of the show as it moves forward? Like, are we really going to keep all the longest tenured people there again so we can have another round of featured players come in that last a year, 2 years,
well,
3 years?
I don't think we can say that yet, because I don't think we know. I mean, the only person that has been confirmed to return is James, right? So he's a shoe-in.
Yeah, but still,
I think,
if the show has any control about how these things rolled out, this is not the way to go about it for sure.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you for a fact that the initial decisions that were made about the newer players at the show, including Longfellow, Emil, and Devin, took place earlier in the week. The discussions that are going to be had about the more veteran players at the show, I believe, are taking place today. I did put that out on Twitter as well. So the rollout, I mean, SNL doesn't announce departures. So as far as their rollout is concerned, they're preparing for season 51. However, these things get leaked, they get leaked, whether the cast wants to put them out or, someone wants to break the news. So I wouldn't take this as an indication necessarily that we're not going to get other departures, more so that the people who had a more tenuous role at the show are being confirmed to depart. So this doesn't necessarily say anything to anybody else.
Yeah, I guess. Still, what a gut punch. Just 3 punches in the gut this week. I mean, Devin, I guess I sort of saw coming, because, how many times are we going to kind of have to go, oh, well, a person of color didn't work out on SNL. What a shame. He was really charming, but it didn't work out. Tale as old as time, unfortunately. Emil's, though, that I don't know. That doesn't pass the sniff test to me. Something is up, especially his last line in his Instagram post about, here's to making more art without compromise, really seems to point to something.
I took that as that. I think I thought that too, and I noodled on it for a bit. I thought that he was saying that he did not compromise during his time on SNL. Like, I think that he was saying that he got a couple opportunities on Update to say some things that other Update correspondents weren't saying and weren't going to say if not him. And I do think that's true. I was just saying that because I thought about it for a bit. Obviously he compromised. You're on NBC. There was some compromise happening, but I do think that he was able to get some, let's say, edgier things out there when he went on Update.
Okay, fair enough. That's a a better reading than mine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was purposefully vague and left to interpretation. Obviously,
Mm,
you know, through Emil's update appearances and his stand-up, if you've gone to see him, you know how he feels politically. And SNL you know, I know that they like to have a range of political viewpoints on the show. The audience seems to be very centered from a specific perspective, but I think that they like their performers to have more of a range of perspectives. The tricky thing is that in today's political climate, not everyone feels comfortable with, you know, discussing their politics on the show. And I think that, you know, from everything that I've heard, that's something that certainly they're going to be looking into as well in the new hires, about like not necessarily taking somebody who is just extremely liberal on the show. I think that they're willing to cover all different viewpoints, because I think the show themselves, they know that there's people who don't feel politically like they're being represented on the show, let alone the fact that clearly there's some diversity issues here.
I guess. I mean, if the show wants to chase a right-wing audience, I will not be taking that ride with them. I don't.
But that's you're right, you know, like, and
Yeah.
but so is the people who stopped watching the show because they felt like the show wasn't for them either. I mean, again,
Has the show ever been for those people though?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, so many of their head writers were Republican for years. I don't necessarily think that. I don't think that they're against going after that. I'm not going to say they're going to hire a bunch of Trump supporters, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to hire people who are more central. And I think that that's something that is a factor here. Like, we just got to talk about it. Bill, you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, there is that, and I think the diversity also, it keeps coming up. You know, the fact that nobody seems to be able to write for anybody who isn't a white person on the show is just sad in 2025. You obviously have exceptions to that rule in Keenan and Ego. You know, you have these breakthroughs. But here's somebody who's representing a group that's never really been represented on SNL. And, you know, same with Molly last year. And you just can't, nobody seems to be able to write for them. So do you need to diversify the writing staff more? Do you need to bring in more people? Although you had people like Celeste Jim, who also left the show. So you're losing people on that side of it as well, from behind the scenes. So there's definitely a problem with that on the show. Political wise, I don't feel like Emil was shoving anything down our throats as far as politics. You know, it would be argued.
Weird to talk about his departure and say we need more diversity at the same time. You know,
right?
Yeah. I wouldn't ascribe Emil's departure to politics, but I will say that seems to be the conversation that is happening online about his departure, and I think it would be it wouldn't be right if we didn't talk about what people are talking about. So I don't know that SNL made this decision and said, okay, Emil feels this way, we don't agree with it. I don't think they ever do that. But I do think that they just, you know, they want to bring more viewers into the show. I mean, look, Colbert just got canceled. You know, when Lauren was interviewed last week by Puck, he was asked the question about Seth and Jimmy and SNL, and like, he's like, hey, I got a great relationship with the head of Comcast. Like, nothing's gonna happen. Like, he's putting his chips in the middle and saying, like, you don't fuck with my shows. And I think part of that is placating to some of the people who stopped watching the show a long time ago that he wants to bring back. Like, SNL 50 as a year for the election, for the anniversary show, was an opportunity to bring people back to the show that haven't watched it in generations. They don't have any of that this year. So now they're thinking about other ways to do that. And I'm not saying that has anything to do with Emil being hired, but I certainly will say, I think when we're talking in a couple weeks about the new hires, I think that's something we should keep in mind.
You're going to lose the whole other contingency of people, though. I think that if you start pandering to the middle, I think you lose everybody to the left of the middle. And yeah. I think that the show is so inherently political. I mean, we have a mayoral race. I know that that's just New York, and it's not as New York centric as maybe New Yorkers like to think that the show is, but the show has been political for its entire existence. And I feel like we're constantly criticizing their takes for not being real takes. I think a lot of the swing and misses of the last few years, especially with politics and the cold open, is that they're not actually saying anything. So I don't really understand how they're going to appeal to more centrist views and then also have a take on anything.
Okay, and I'm just saying this isn't my personal opinion. But I'm just gonna give you my, because this isn't about my politics or any of our politics here on the show. This is about just my covering SNL, my experience going to the show, talking to people. I in my opinion, I think that Shane Gillis being brought back to host the last couple seasons is a much larger indication of maybe the direction the show is looking to go with their stand-ups versus some of the other stand-ups that they've hired over the last few years. So I think that perhaps a combination of more Shane Gillis type stand-ups and sketch performers is something that I would look to as the show potentially hiring over the next year or two.
But as we've seen, Shane Gillis, both of the stories on both times he hosted was like, boy, that stand-up monologue didn't go over well. And also, he's not that adept at live sketch comedy. If you're looking at Shane Gillis as like, we should move towards that, it doesn't work. It
works for the moderates, though. I think it works for the Shane Gillis fan base. It doesn't work. I don't know. They're not me, but
yeah, I don't understand it. Moving centrist is how the Democrats just lost an entire election. It's a stupid idea.
I'm just saying, yeah, it's something that I think will be a topic of conversation. Bill, you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, I think part of the problem, again, it always goes back to writing. Good seasons have good writing. Bad seasons have bad writing. And if you're looking for the next James Downey, you're not going to find him. And that's part of what this rose-colored look at the past is, that he was writing scathing stuff about Bush, even though he was Republican. Franken was writing scathing stuff about Clinton and Dukakis, even though he was a Democrat. So that is where they should focus their look. But how are you going to find that guy? Like these are two all-time talents. There's obviously very, very talented writers on SNL, but they don't seem to have the political bite that they did in the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s. And that is kind of where they should center. Not worried about who's in the cast necessarily, who's writing the sketches that are covering the politics.
Yeah, and I think if you were sitting in the room right now on the 17th floor having a conversation with the producers about what they're looking for, I think they're looking for people who will make fun of everybody, left, right, no matter what. And I think finding a Downey, who's probably the greatest writer in SNL history, is a needle in a haystack. It's not going to happen. But would Lorne like to leave a legacy and leave the show behind with finding the next great cast and the next great writers? I think that's ultimately his goal at 80 years old, is to build something great. And I think that he has this opportunity now with, what is already a few departures and potentially a lot more, to have somewhat of a new feel at the show. And that's what he alluded to last week in that interview with Puck. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what's going to happen. Andrew, do you have anything you wanted to talk about or any questions from me from what's going on here at Saturday Night Live World?
I mean, oh man, I don't know.
Okay, we could also take some questions from the audience as well.
So let's see what the audience has to say.
I
don't foresee the vision right now. Just like what are they doing and talking about that whole conversation of finding an audience that doesn't care, and we got to bring those people in at the expense of the people that watch the show now seems like folly. And the show could right now, it doesn't even punch right hard enough as it could. So why do we need to be punching harder left as well? It doesn't punch at all. It's a limp noodle every single time it tries to have a political take anyway.
Let's put a pin in it until we see who the hires are. I've definitely heard some names. I can't get into those today. And honestly, I wouldn't, because I do think once we start revealing names too much, potentially prevents them from getting hired at the show. So I think out of fairness to anyone who's really in the mix right now, I shouldn't talk about them publicly on the show, but I would expect to hear something at some time post Labor Day. We did find out about the 3 new hires last year, I believe on the Thursday after Labor Day. So it is coming up very soon for that. I definitely want to take some questions questions from the audience before we go here. We got some great SNL minds in Amanda, Andrew, and Bill. So I'll start with this one from M, who said, did Longfellow leave or was he fired? So Michael Longfellow has not come out and spoken about this yet. Typically, a cast member won't say exactly what happened because a lot of times those are private conversations. I would invite anyone who's wondering the answer to this question to go rewatch the interview we did with Punky Johnson. I believe it was last November, where she very much in detail described how these calls work when someone is removed from the cast, as it is sort of put on them as a mutual decision that is like, well, we kind of want you to go and we know you have other opportunities elsewhere, so maybe you should take them. So it's almost like a firing and a person leaving on their own. So, well, that is, so I would venture to say that is probably where some of these things went. Bill, any thoughts on this?
My immediate thought went to the sports equivalent of I want to spend more time with my family. Like, that means they just got shit canned. So I don't know. Longfellow, it feels like he left on his own. Now, obviously, we're just guessing, but it feels like everything we've already said as far as update possibly not being open as he might have thought it was. And he's a great stand-up. He's killing it all over the country. He doesn't need to be here. He's not getting enough on. It feels like that's what the case is here.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
go ahead.
His
Go ahead,
last
Andrew.
update piece from last season was basically like, so am I still here though? Right? Like, wasn't that basically the crutch of like, am I still a cast member?
Yeah.
When I saw Devin, the news about Devin, I know that those two were good friends. So I just like, this doesn't bode well for Michael.
They both did an update piece the week that Rami Youssef hosted the show in season 49, where they played in dress a version of Jostin Che, like an alternate Jostin Che. And it didn't make it to air. They really loved it. They felt like they should try it again. And I was there that week and I was talking to them and I was like, you guys have to do this. Like, this is the type of shit that people love, that like the SNL community is going to go nuts over. Obviously, it didn't make it to the show, but clearly in someone's mind, the idea that these two could have more potential at the show was there. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see that yet. Taking a look at some other questions we have here in the chat. I think we had somebody asking about, we're seeing a lot of men leaving the show. Do we think we're going to get a lot of women hiring? So this comes from Oversimplified Productions. Given all the departures have been males, do you think the rookie class will have any females? I'm pretty confident that they're auditioning a lot of women for the show right now, especially ones that were in the mix last year, also ones that they are bringing this year. I think that there's been some holes in the show. Clearly, with Punky leaving last year, there was only one black woman at the show in Ego. I think that they would try and fill that this summer. It has to be a priority for them. I'm also curious what other performers we may get joining on the women's side. Amanda, what would you like to see?
Why me?
Good woman here. So I felt
Sorry, I think there's a fire truck going by. I'm not super concerned, I guess, with the breakdown. I mean, I think that you need some non-binary talent as well, seeing as we've seen cast member and writer exit. I don't really care so much about that. I guess left from Devin and Longfellow's class were only men anyway, so and Marcello being the last one standing. Molly Carney departed the year before. And I guess from Emil's, so far the women are standing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to see talented, interesting performers and writers. I know that probably sounds like a cop-out, but I certainly haven't been sitting around feeling like they need women. Because I guess I just don't think of the roles as super binary like that. I like seeing women that are like, I like Sarah Sherman, who doesn't play the normal, girl, like mom or girlfriend, or does sometimes now. And same with Heidi. I don't know. I want them to hire people that they're going to invest in and let grow and find their footing. So whatever they can do to do that, because I don't want to get attached to more people that are going to be let go, even if they should. It's just a bummer because I feel like you end up rooting for people. And this might be a stand-up thing because when you have stand-ups, you end up inevitably learning more about their lives. You know, it's not necessarily their true lives, and obviously it's all editorialized and hyperbolic, but I feel like to the extent we want SNL to be like a reality show, which we always talk about, I think the stand-ups are able to usher that in a bit more because they do talk about their personal lives and their work, and I like that aspect. I know that I just really veered away from the question.
No, but that's okay. But I do think that that's something you get a lot from update anchors. But of course, we've had the same ones for so long. We know them so well. It's hard to get that when you're not changing things up.
Right.
I know we're getting a lot of questions, so I just want to do a little bit of rapid fire on this as well. We got this question from John M, who said, do you think SNL would ever bring back an old cast member to be a player who could actually pull this off and potentially do it? So obviously, you know, Bill, we had the great, wonderful Chris Parnell once brought back to the show. What do you think of this?
You know, I had a secret hope last year that Dana would be brought back into the cast because he feels like, I mean, he was coming obviously and doing Biden all fall and he was there so much, but he feels like somebody who could slide right back into that cast and do regular sketches, you know, and yeah, I don't think they would ever do it because it feels like one of those things that, you know, once you're gone, you're gone. Obviously, Parnell is the exception to the rule. He was fired unfairly. Will Ferrell helped get him back. And so he was brought back in fairly short order. But yeah, to imagine something like that, I think that's a fantasy of a lot of longtime SNL fans that somebody would come back to the show. And Carvey feels like that right fit. He's not a movie star anymore. He still loves the show. He's still very close to Lauren. So somebody like that would be great, but I don't think it'll happen.
Can I pitch you on Michael Longfellow returning to the cast and Emil Wakim? Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, listen, we talked about that with Trost, right? Like, what if she came back for 51? You know, that
I think you'd have to have a lot of pull at the show to be able to bring someone back into the show at any point. It wasn't like it happened immediately. There was, I think, half a season or more than half a season without Chris Parnell. So, you know, Will Ferrell being one of the all-time greats, he was able to pull that off. I think also it happened at a time where Lauren is just starting to take back his control of the show from the network. And it's just like it's a little bit of a different time and place. I think that the show would be telling on themselves more now if they were to bring back someone that they got rid of. Like, they typically like to stand by their choices. But yeah, certainly that could happen with another, you know, showrunner down the road, or SNL UK, who knows. But speaking of UK, we got this question from King Droid. He said, greetings from the UK. Who else do you think will leave the cast? Well, I mean, I would say that it's sort of unfair for me to say that I know for sure someone else is leaving when I think things are still up in the air. But I would say a lot of people are still a little bit speculative about Jane Wickline and her role at the show. I think that she's somebody who naturally, because she did not get a lot on the show last year and seemed to be only finding her place with the things that she brought to the show from TikTok, that she would be among these initial departures. That may still happen, but I think that's been a big question mark for a lot of people. So that's going to be something interesting to see if she does stick around. Also, I mean, she does have a large connection to Saturday Night Live with her mom used to be an assistant for Lorne Michaels. So just another factor there to consider as far as her connections into the show. Andrew, are you surprised we didn't hear anything about Jane?
I don't know. I suppose. I mean, I thought she also had a decent first year. Some things I liked, some things I didn't. But considering how many people online treat her as if she'd murdered their parents, I am surprised that she wasn't one of the first people announced, just because people are so unbelievably mean to her online. I don't get it. So she didn't seem to have the community support, sadly, that people like Longfellow or Emil or I guess even Devin got a lot of shit from the community too. Again, I don't know why. So I don't know. I like her though. She's the kind of comedic variety I think the show needs, and I don't need to love every single thing she does or every single piece on the show. I think it is a good thing to have her in the cast.
Yeah, we will see. Got this one from Shimdi, who says, "Do you think they're screen testing anyone who did Just for Laughs New Faces this year?" Yeah, at least one person from New Faces this year, I know for sure, auditioned for the show. That's typically a pipeline for them, where they always send producers over to Just for Laughs to take a look, and they often bring them in to the show. So that's certainly something. On the road with JT Shark asks, are they getting any rid of? Are they going to get rid of any of some longer standing performers? I think that's the big question mark that we're all going to look towards now. This seems to be we've reached sort of like this point in, okay, these three have just left. They're some of the newer performers that have come in since this mini new era in season 48. Is it possible we're going to now look towards that? And what I have been told is that a lot of those phone calls are taking place today, not necessarily of like, hey, you're gone, but like, okay, we're really excited to move forward with you. Or if we are going to be moving forward with you for this season, this is what we would like to see from you in season 51, or maybe we've decided to go in a different direction. So I think a lot of like the status update things are happening. It is possible that somebody who's more veteran is decided to move on or let go today, and then we do find that out later today, but if not tomorrow, and then I would assume we would probably not get any news over the long weekend, as a lot of people are traveling for Labor Day and with their families. So I would look to maybe news over the next, call it 36 hours. And then after Labor Day, I think we may get some more news on either departures or new hires. Bill, is there anything that you would think we might see in the next few days?
Well, I mean, if you were betting on DraftKings, I think Chloe Fineman would be the most obvious as far as the veterans go. She didn't have as good of a season last year. We saw her screen time take a hit, and she's popular in so many other venues. She's huge on Instagram and TikTok and things like that. Has her feet in so many different things. So I could see that being the one that wouldn't be shocking if we saw depart as far as veterans go.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Could be time. I mean, she's obviously very prolific in a lot of the other things she's doing in the fashion world and acting outside of the show. So oftentimes when you see somebody who's been on the show for so many years decide to move on, it's because they have a lot of good things going on outside the show. Amanda, what about you? Anything that you may think we would see in the next few days?
I mean, I was pretty convinced at the end of 50 that Mikey Day was leaving, just based on the way that he was acting and the run of sketches and his update piece that he saw. But then, we were all watching the finale, waiting for indication, and nothing happened. And then it's just been a summer of kind of forgetting what had happened. And now I don't really know where things stand. I mean, I still think that Bowen is a huge question mark. I listen to every word he says on his podcast every week, trying to decipher clues to figure out that. It's just so bizarre to me that decisions really wouldn't be made until this week with these people that are such giants unto themselves at this point. And to the extent they have control over it would really shock me if they didn't have an idea at the end of the season whether they were returning or not. It's really remarkable how they keep this so under wraps for the summer so often.
Yeah, so part of that I attribute to what Lorne said to Puck last week, which was just that he wanted to make the 50th season just about the 50th season. I don't personally agree with that. I think that on that night when Scarlett Johansson hosted in May, we were as a community, widely disappointed that we didn't get any news about anything. I'm not saying that if nobody wanted to leave, I'm not saying they had to leave to make some news, but it just felt like blue balls, I didn't know how else to put it. But now I think we're more in the contract stage of things, where typically a lot of the yearly contracts end towards the beginning of August, and then they start up at the start of September. So I think a lot of these things, as far as contracts are concerned, need to happen prior to September 1st. So that's why we typically get news around this last week of August.
But do you think their contracts prevent them from announcing earlier? How does you think it's just their respect for Lorne? How do we get veterans to stay tight-lipped about it all summer and pretend oh, who knows? This is a discussion to be had at the end of August, beginning of September. It's just kind of shocking to me.
Well,
summer's such a black box.
Well, for people like Devin and Emil and Longfellow, they are probably, I doubt it's the first phone call that they've had with them this summer. And they probably had the conversation of we're not sure yet. give us a few more weeks. And I think if
Right.
they were to go out on tour and say something to the audience and say like, I'm left in the wind, I think that may worry them that they're going to be fired because of that, or they're going to be.
But I'm not talking about them.
Okay,
I mean,
so,
like Mikey, Bowen, Heidi, Eggos, Michael Che doesn't count because he says every opportunity that he's quitting. But
well, he's a different story. But I think for those people, I would say that the answer to the question is more that like they want to have that moment of like saying goodbye to the show, whether it's on the show or on social media. I think they want to do it on their own terms, and by starting to tell their families, their friends, people in the media, I think those things are going to prevent them from having that moment. So that's probably more what I would attribute it to. Okay, this was a good discussion to catch up on the news of the week. Of course, if other things break that are immediate and worth jumping on for, we will do some more breaking news coverage. Otherwise, Bill Kenny and I will be back on Tuesday night for our next episode of our countdown of SNL's greatest hosts of all time. We're into the top 10 now. So if there's anything that happens between now and then, Bill and I will talk about that at the start of the show with some of our patrons. And when we have new hires and all of that, we'll be back. And of course, having coverage of season 51 all season long. So really appreciate all of you hanging out with us on this Thursday afternoon for some breaking news coverage. So Amanda, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's the middle of the workday. I hope none of my coworkers
see you online
have noticed that this has happened. If you did, I'm sorry. I'm going to get back to work in like 10 minutes.
Well, we're going to let you go in just a minute. Bill Kenny, appreciate you jumping on with us.
Oh, no problem. I'm self-employed, so hopefully I don't tell on myself. But yeah, just great to be with all you, and wish it was under less bittersweet circumstances, but happy to be here.
Yeah, and Andrew, I thought you were going to throw some fastballs at me, but I would say we had a good back and forth.
Yeah. No, always, John. Always a pleasure. I was burning down the highway, just Longfellow. I will avenge you.
We gave you a podcast massage, like a little bit of drink, like you're able to calm down now. We can talk it through. So very happy to get to hang out with you, Andrew. Of course, we have plenty of discussion and news breaking on our social media platforms all the time. So if you give us a follow at the SNL Network, we will have everything as soon as it breaks. Our marketing team is just like the best in the business, and they put out stuff as quickly as they can. You can follow me at John Schneider 24 as well, and subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, search Saturday Night Network to never miss anything we got going on here. We got plenty of podcast coverage, as well as our mini documentary about everything you need to know about SNL from each season coming out. We got season 24 on its way as well. So thanks to everybody in the chat for hanging out with us on this Thursday day. We want to send our best to The Departed at Saturday Night Live. As I said earlier in the show, it's
Hungry for the Hunger Games!
as the great Sofia Vergara once said. But we will see what happens, and we will be there to cover it all. So my name is John Schneider from the Saturday Night Network, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.